think he has distanced himself from certain perpetrators while also pulling the alternate reality that he created toward him. In those days and weeks after January 6th, it really did look like he was finished politically. He had longtime allies turning against him, talking about how awful it was. And then they started hedging their bets, and Trump started to create this alternate universe where nothing happened on January 6th. Nothing that we saw took place. He was the real victim. The Capitol Police were the real perpetrators. It was an absolute inversion of reality, and he was so completely committed to it that it just couldn't help but work on the people who wanted to get him back into office.
Well, let's get more now on the fourth anniversary of that riot at the Capitol Hill. Trump, as we've been hearing, has spoken of pardoning an unspecified number of the rioters. Mike Rothschild is a journalist and author of The Storm is Upon Us, How QAnon Became a Movement, Cult and Conspiracy Theory of Everything. Good evening to you, Mike.
Oh, good evening to you.
It was a very big contrast today, wasn't it, seeing that certification process go ahead so smoothly compared to what happened 4 years ago?
Well, hardly anything could be more of a contrast to what we saw 4 years ago. Here was this procedural vote that essentially takes 20 minutes and most people didn't even know about, and it immediately became one of the focal points of American history. And now things have sort of just gone back to normal.
We've heard that Donald Trump has spoken in the past about how he will pardon those who've been convicted for their part in that riot. Is there a sense now in which many of those who took part now feel that it's just a question of time before they'll all be deemed to have done nothing wrong, as Donald Trump has been suggesting nothing happened that night?
Well, I think they all assume that they are going to be pardoned. They're going to be let out. They're going to be handed, Trump watches and Bibles and given cushy jobs. The reality of what Trump actually does and the fantasy world that he spins and the things that he says are often very different. And I believe that there probably is going to be a rude awakening for at least some of the people who are currently in prison or who have had felony convictions for January 6th.
Of course, as we were hearing there from David Charter, the attempts to impeach Donald Trump failed. He's never faced any charges over the riot. Is there any sense at all in which Donald Trump is distancing himself from those who were involved in some of the worst trouble there?
I think he has distanced himself from certain perpetrators while also pulling the alternate reality that he created toward him. In those days and weeks after January 6th, it really did look like he was finished politically. He had longtime allies turning against him, talking about how awful it was. And then they started hedging their bets, and Trump started to create this alternate universe where nothing happened on January 6th. Nothing that we saw took place. He was the real victim. The Capitol Police were the real perpetrators. It was an absolute inversion of reality, and he was so completely committed to it that it just couldn't help but work on the people who wanted to get him back into office.
And of course, beyond that, he's also managed to convince an awful lot of Americans that the previous election in 2020 was stolen from him, when, of course, there's been no evidence whatsoever that there was any problem with that result.
Right. The evidence of Trump secretly winning in 2020 has never changed. It didn't exist on election day. It doesn't exist now. But they have created a reality where he actually won the election and they stole it from him through a variety of chicanery that's never truly been avenged. And we've all just sort of decided to go along with the fact that, oh, one of our elections just didn't have a rightful winner. And we just elected Trump again to do the things that he said he was going to do the first time. It is a completely alternate universe that millions and millions of people have talked themselves into believing is real.
Let me ask you how Elon Musk fits into all of this, these activists on the right, the QAnon conspiracists. It's caused quite a big political row here in the UK because the Prime Minister has now responded to Elon Musk's claims that he's not been doing enough to address the grooming gangs scandal, which affected several British cities. Is there any sense in which Elon Musk is playing to a wider audience there in his focus on what's happening here in the UK?
I think Elon Musk is absolutely playing to a wider audience. I think he is playing to this very large audience that thinks that he is some sort of a genius, that he is a visionary in business and technology. And what Musk gets from those people is this feeling of importance and this feeling of being special. So he's able to insert himself into global affairs simply because he has an enormous megaphone and an enormous amount of money and influence. And people want to be near influence and money, and he wants to be near people who want to be near him.
And do you get the sense that he's going to carry on doing this, including openly criticising various senior figures, not just here in the UK, but in France and in Germany too? Is he going to be able to carry on doing that once he's actually a part of the incoming Trump administration?
I think Elon Musk is going to continue to do whatever he wants to do. He's going to continue saying whatever he wants to say, knowing that his power and wealth and status essentially insulate him from any kind of consequences.
And using, of course, his X platform to do so.
Right. He has a megaphone that reaches, I think he has something like 200 million followers at this point. And many of these are people who truly believe that he is the best among us, that he's been chosen by divine providence as the person who's going to unite humanity in a multi-planetary quest to go to Mars. And it's very difficult to reason with people like that a lot of what Musk is saying is just his own opinion that isn't particularly well formed or researched.
Mike Rothschild, journalist, author of The Storm is Upon Us, How QAnon Became a Movement, Cult and Conspiracy Theory of Everything. Great to talk to you. Thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you very much.
Hey, Joey. Yeah. I know. All right, guys, please. Form up. Reform. All right. Hold on. Reform up. Form up. Let's go. Move. Where's Garrett?
Keep moving. Sorry.
Love you guys.